I remember seeing a saying once that said, when you're on your deathbed, very few people say, I wish I would have spent more time at the office. So I don't think for me, it's not what I can accumulate in life, it's what I can give away, both of myself and of our ministerial goods.
My name is Father Toby Collins. On this dull and dreary day, it's important to remember that the year of consecrated life was given to us so that we can wake up the world, that together we might embrace this great gift of consecrated life. It's a wonderful vocation to be celebrating within the Hamilton Diocese, part of this great family of evangelization.
I was first drawn to this community, the Sisters of Our Lady Immaculate, because when I came to visit, I think the first thing I noticed was really a great deal of joy in their lives. And that seemed to stem from their relationship with our Lord and their very sisterly relationship with each other too. They had a very strong prayer life. They spent an hour of adoration every day, Mass every day, the Rosary 3 times a day.
Right around the time I turned 22, I met the Legionaries for the first time, and it was just a priest passing through the area, gave a talk, and he just invited me to come and visit. And I was already starting to think about the priesthood, so I said, sure, it can't hurt.
And a couple of my best friends were entering religious life after high school, and I, at that time, sort of felt that maybe I had a call. And I went to talk to my high school principal, who happened to be a priest, diocesan priest, and I told him what I was thinking about this, and he said, oh no, he said, now you just finished a general or a special commercial course. And I said, yes, I did. And he said, well, I think you should get out in the world and work and get some experience, and if the Lord wants you, He'll get you. About 12 years after that initial conversation with Father, I did enter religious life because the Lord did get me.
Your heart knows where your home is. And I've visited other communities before, and I like them. But when I visited this particular community, it just felt like this fits like a glove. It really was for me.
Nie było takiego jednego momentu, w którym nagle mi się anioł objawił z nieba i powiedział: ty, zmartwychwstańcy w Kanadzie. To jakby wzrastało we mnie z czasem. Ja lubię używać takiej metafory właśnie jak ktoś, kto wchodzi na przykład do morza powoli, żeby pływać. I jak pierwszy raz wchodzisz, to wiadomo, że tam zazwyczaj ludzie się nie rzucają pierwszy raz zupełnie, tylko wchodzą i woda jest po kostki. No okej, to jest w porządku, mogę chyba iść dalej. Potem wchodzą po kolana, a potem wyżej. I w końcu przychodzi taki moment, że są już po szyję, no chyba już mogę zacząć pływać. I tak było ze mną, też jakby się nie rzuciłem z mola prosto do wody, tylko tak stopniowo właśnie się oswajałem z tym.
Well, the sisters rise early for time of prayer.
7 o'clock morning prayer, 7:30 Mass. After that would be work time.
Then there's different volunteers who come in at different times to help with food preparation. Myself, I come in around 11:30 to help with any final arrangements in the kitchen and setting up the line to serve our guests who come in.
The sisters would go in their different ministries. Myself, I work in the hospital as an emergency physician, so I would go in and show while I do my work as a medical doctor, I also bring with it our charism of compassion.
I live in South Sudan, East Africa, and I'm with a group called Solidarity with South Sudan. It's formed by all the major religious superiors of men and women from around the world. So it's priests, brothers and sisters from all continents living, working together. And I teach people to become teachers, and I also teach them how to teach others to become teachers. I certainly work at religious studies, and I give workshops on healing from trauma.
Most of my work now is really in administration, where I focus on running the Good Shepherd Centers and Good Shepherd nonprofit homes. We have about 500 employees.
Good number of them are getting really involved, so much in our apostolate of teaching and our apostolate of caring. Some are nurses, some are trained teachers.
We also have ministries to new immigrants, to refugees. We have Sister Anne Marshall in Hamilton has done phenomenal work with meditation, Christian meditation with children in schools.
And then after supper, there was a half an hour of recreation. Everybody got together for recreation. And we exchanged our experiences during the day and had some fun or went out for a walk or something like that. And then the rest of the evening was spent in preparing for the next day's lessons. That's what the day was like.
My greatest joy of living the consecrated life as a Soli sister is, I guess, our spirituality and our charism. We have a Eucharistic and Marian spirituality, and that has always been dear to my heart. The joy of the sisters is absolutely amazing, which brings hope to the world, and that's been one of my favorite virtues. And then our charism, which is bringing the faith to others. So, which is what Pope Francis called us to do, is then to bring that joy, that love of God out to others and love of neighbor. And I love how we do that, and I love doing that as a consecrated.
I feel very peaceful when I wake up, and you can feel God present around you, even in your own bedroom.
When we have an experience of life in abundance, just in a moment when we have coffee around the table, when we have supper around the table, I'm just amazed at how we love to sit around the table and talk. It's just such a gift.
Life in a community is we get to everyone caring for each other, and we live our community life. Try our best to show the strongest of human and also the weakness of human, and the most important thing that we show the love of Christ, and we try our best every day.
As a sister, I'm very happy to be able to give comfort to people who call us, to be able to help my sisters in community to carry on this apostolate of prayer. And that, when I look over my life, which is many, many years now, I wouldn't change a bit of it.
I really appreciate the fact that the vows free me to be able to be totally present to the person to whom I'm ministering. And then when I'm not with that person, I'm with the next person I'm ministering to, that I can be totally present to them. And I think that's an awesome aspect of being a person in consecrated life.
Part of our order's charism is to preach in a language that ordinary people can understand. And so I really enjoy helping people to understand some of the most profound ideas and concepts and mysteries of faith and put them right in their own language.
What I've always loved is the vows, consecrated life. I've loved the community life. I've appreciated the companionship.
After being faithful and staying, my father was pleased in the end and was proud of me. My mother told me after he had died, so it took many years to kind of say that, but that in God's eyes I knew that I was in the right place, and I was content in doing what I felt I was called to do.
I have found it extremely beneficial to really be open and to give thought to a number of different vocations, and I think that it's always a good thing to not be afraid to jump in, to not be afraid to go and visit sisters or another religious order, or to discern a vocation to the priesthood for men, or to date as well. I think that's really important because God will speak to you through those experiences.
Just be generous. God's never outdone in generosity, and if we say yes to Him,
you'll never regret a sacrifice that you make out of love for Him.
Once you have that intuition or that idea, once it comes into your mind, I would advise you to take a step towards it.
And don't be afraid. I think that holds a lot of young people back, the fear that somehow when you enter religious life that you do give up some things, but you get so much more in return. And you have to take that plunge and take that leap and just trust.
And listen to what people say to you, and see, even consider religious life. You know, it may not be the first thing that you think of, but give it some thought and let God guide you.
Doing the will of God, that's where our happiness lies. And if you want to be happy, you want to feel fulfilled, try to find out what God's will is. And if you think He is calling you to be with Him, to do the work that He did, go ahead, try it. You can't go wrong.
Trying to find God, we're like a little fish looking for the ocean. We're surrounded by God. We're immersed in God. God is within us. God is all around us. So in some sense, it's to relax and let God find you. And don't be afraid to be called to a deeper relationship with God in consecrated life, because it's not a huge sacrifice, it's a huge gift.
Consecrated life is a life of love. It's a life that God calls us to. It's a life of fulfillment of desire. It's a life of service. It's a life of sacrifice. It's a life of beauty. And as we all know, love is not easy. Commitment is not easy, but it's beautiful. And I would highly recommend anybody who's even thinking of a life of consecration to Christ to come and see. Come and see for yourself and see if God's calling you to live your life of love this way.
My great hope is that the religious in our diocese will do as Pope Francis has called them to do, and that is to wake up the world, that through their commitment to poverty, chastity, and obedience, they will help Catholics of all different vocations and states of life to fulfill their own calling in the world with love for God, love for their neighbor, and devotion to the gospel. This is something that the religious can show us by their particular devotion. I think they really can inspire all of us in devotion in our own walks of life. I also pray for continued flourishing and renewal of vocations for our religious congregations, that the good example of so many who've dedicated their lives to the Lord's service over many years will seek to inspire our young people to this particular and very important form of service within the Church.
The focus of consecrated life, well, let me say this. We take vows, first of all, vows of poverty, chastity, and obedience. And those vows, you know, why do we do that? The focus of those vows is no distractions, no distractions. We're not poverty, chastity, and obedience. These are the three big areas where temptation lies. Money, sex, power. And what we're saying is we eschew these things. We choose not to claim them because we claim Christ. Now, it doesn't mean that, we're doing something holier than anybody else. We're all called to holiness, and we're all called in our own way. But it's a clear statement to everybody about what is central in life and who is central in life, and that is the Lord.